Now we move on to Sunset Star, and my goodness, is this place smooth. And I mean smooth. Like, dude, that sunset in the background, ooh, I love it so much, man, I love it so much. That and just the transition from all the nature and foliage you witnessed before in the previous zones, turning more in mechanical as you get closer and closer to Eggman's base. You're no longer in your own territory now. This is Eggman's domain, and you can tell. This is also the moment in Sonic Before the sequel where I believe the story finally becomes more apparent. What, you didn't know this game had a story? Of course it does, it's called Before the sequel for a reason. This all happens before Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, if you didn't know. And also, there were actual cutscenes in this game. You just can't watch them now because they're not compatible with modern computers and whatnot. Yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, the story in the beginning mainly consists of Sonic running towards the construction of the Death Egg while Tails follows. But this is where things start to ramp up. But anyway, back to the stage. So, we have these pylons. Some are still under construction. It kind of gives that feeling that Eggman's still expanding his base, kinda, you know? It's pretty cool. And this stage transition is lovely, chef's kiss. And if you backtrack, you can notice something that I never noticed before. The sun actually went down more! That means time is progressing as you're going on! That is time progression, and it's lovely. However, as much praise as I give this stage, I do have some things that I am semi-disappointed about. The foreground layer is just a recolored chemical plant. It's nothing much to look at. It's gray. All of the beauty really comes in the background, really. But you know, like I said in the beginning, I'm not gonna go ahead and rate little details such as, oh, it's just a recolor of this. But I digress. Let's continue. Speaking of pretty background, something I forgot to mention were these little shuttles in the air. I always loved these things. They're so cool. However, going back to the foreground, I hate these starfish things. They suck. There are two variants. One that shoots little orbs and one with these teeth that you can bounce off of. They're really inconvenient. Especially the ones that shoot orbs. They wait for you to come by, messing up any kind of precision platforming you have. They're like, yeah, that's right. Come here. Yeah, I'm waiting for you. I'm gonna snipe you and then ruin all your progress. I make you fall all the way down to the bottom path instead. Now that that's over, time to move on to Act 2. Which, may I mention, there are two Act 2s. Yeah, there's like a top path and a bottom path. If you go to the top one, you get taken to a different Act 2 than if you go to the bottom path. That's so cool! Now, if you go down to the bottom path, you get taken to this little stadium called the Mega Drive. You can see the sign in the background. It's a nice little mini game. You gotta go ahead and you gotta collect all the stars while all these cars race in the background. Why does Robotnik need these again? Like, what purpose does this serve? Does he like watching people race? Is there an audience in the crowd? I like to think that there is, because it'd be ominous if there wasn't. Maybe a bunch of badniks come here for breaks. It's a cute little feature. I like it. However, it confuses me. And it can be frustrating to navigate sometimes, especially because of these things that sit on the roof. I see you! Did I mention I hate the badniks in this stage? I really hate the badniks in this stage. The top path, there's really nothing special when you go to the top path, aside from you don't gotta go through the Mega Drive. It's really just the same template, but red this time. I thought the red was actually a nice little touch. Moving on to Act 3, I think that this is probably one of the smoothest things this game does. So, when you're going through the stage, you're hearing the music of Act 2 just playing in the background. And you're just kind of going through thinking it's all normal, and then you go through this cannon, and then this. the music changes. It goes rear, and then it goes ahead and changes the whole entire track. I love that. That is cool. Bonus points for that. Now, I guess this is a good time to mention another feature of this stage, the corkscrews. There are the same corkscrews you have in Metropolis Zone and Sonic 2, though a bit different. They're not really momentum-based. They're more stiff. However, you know, they're very punishing if you do not know how to platform, especially on certain sections where you have to platform on the screws. If you fall, they're not coming back down, so you're kind of stuck. It's not my favorite feature about this stage. There are also these long rectangles that shoot out of the ground. I don't know why they're here. Maybe just to add some extra background clutter, but they're just floating there. They don't even match most of the buildings in the background. Okay, final verdict for Sunset Star. If you couldn't already tell, I like this stage a lot. From the background to the different pathways you can take that lead to different Act 2s, to the little music change that happens. Ooh, this definitely is going in one of my favorites. Now we move on to Metro Madness. Now, going back to what I said about the story, as much as Sonic's name is plastered on the front view, I think this is Tails' story. Sonic, more or less, we already know his business. He's going against Eggman, he needs to stop him from launching the Death Egg. But Tails' story is a bit different. In this story, he doesn't know much about Sonic. He's just following him because he thinks he's cool. But it's at this point, at Metro Madness, where he finally figures out the relationship that Sonic has with this mysterious man who created this gigantic base. Because at this point, Tails doesn't know who Eggman is either. He just knows that there's this big old base made by somebody, and Sonic seems to want to stop him. But then he comes to Metro Madness, and he sees all these little wanted posters of Sonic. You can tell Eggman doesn't like this guy in his base, so he's out for his head. And Tails now knows this too, so he's over here wondering, why is Sonic a wanted felon? I must figure out more. The storytelling in these stages, I tell you. So here we're introduced to the stage's first gimmick, and that is these little fan things you need to fly over to open some gates. I don't like them much. They're a real pace breaker. They really just slow things down as you try to bob up and down and up and down and up and down. However, if you want pace breaker, then these laser mini games are who to look at. What you gotta do is you gotta aim this little laser pointer and hit the button and to hit these little target things. They slow the stage's momentum down to a halt. Though sometimes you might get lucky, run over the button and get a bullseye on the first shot. You know, that's always nice. Luckily, these things aren't everywhere, so, you know, that's a plus. Now, considering this is called Metro Madness, you're probably expecting trains. And if you look in the background, you can actually see them. They're actually these little dome trams of some kind. They're really cute. I love their little design. It's definitely a unique take on a monorail of some kind, you know, a little dome vehicle thingamajig. I love them. You also get to ride them during the boss of this level, too. Just thought I'd mention that. And while we're still on the topic of these dome monorails, I never noticed this little feature here. If you go to one of these neon signs, it actually shows you where these monorails are heading. They're actually going to and from the Death Egg construction site, and I thought that was really cool. Man, extra points for that. Also, there's this big old neon sign that says Metro Madness. I like it. Glad to know that I know where I am. I thought I was getting lost for a sec. Now, the badniks of this stage are alright. We have these slicers from Metropolis Zone. They're barely seeable. They blend into the background really well. However, they're not as annoying as their Metropolis brethren, because their little slicing things move very slowly. And you can go behind them and stand behind them, and they get scared because they can't turn around. I also love these shark torpedoes. They're really cool looking. That's it. I just wanted to mention that. Moving on to Act 2, you go over to the fan things and they imply that you need to use the spin dash to open the doors. Could Sonic have been playable in this stage? I would never know. I mean, I can believe that Sonic passed by here, but maybe he could have been playable? I would never know. We're also introduced to these little switches on the ground that I never noticed them. I always forget that they're there because they blend into the ground, but there's a red and blue switch that you can jump on, and it activates these platforms and it flips them either upside down or right side up, with the upside down part being more of a spring that springs you up. I thought it was a nice little gimmick, though, the buttons could be a little bit more prevalent so I can see them. Going through this stage, I've come to realize that this game has a very, very consistent day and night cycle. I know I mentioned it in Sunset Star, but it's just now that I started to realize that the time is actually cycling very consistently. Cycling from assumably afternoon to evening to sunset, now to night. I love it, man, I love it. Moving on to Act 3, we see that the background's gone through a bit of a change. There are actual trains in the background now. Though, the circular monorails are still prevalent, you just gotta get high enough to see them. I don't know, Act 3 always seemed to give me that feeling of being at an airport at night. Specifically Act 3. I don't know. Y'all can see it, right? The smell of new carpet. I'll be quiet now. Metro Madness is an overall slick stage. I love the trains in the background. I love the atmosphere, the personality. This stage deserves to go up on the amazing tier. Now we reach Fortress Flow. The background of Fortress Flow isn't really that special. It's just the background of that one special stage in Sonic CD, so there's not really much to pick apart here, but hey, at least you got the bubble shield, which isn't really a shield, more or less an excuse for you to just kind of go through a water stage without worrying about air, which I can appreciate. Now, I know the background isn't much to look at, but the foreground actually has a lot to take in. It's a very funky aesthetic. I love the combination of sand and machinery. Also these water pipes. It really makes you wonder what they're harvesting down here, or what they're even doing down here. Why does Robotnik need an underwater base in the first place? Is it for the plumbing of the whole entire base? Maybe for fresh water? I wouldn't know. However, these badniks, they're pretty cool. I mean, we got this laser gator, or crocodile, whatever this thing is. That like a fish, a chomper, whatever it does, it shoots a little laser out of its stomach, and I like that. We also have these little guys who go up and charge a little energy ball that homes in on you, kinda, sorta. They're pretty precise with their aim, and they can be kind of annoying at sometimes, but they got a cool design. I love them. Now we reach this stage's gimmick, and that's these little spike sections you gotta maneuver through as you get pushed by the current. There's also this electric rod that comes in every now and then to limit your movement, but that can be easily cheesed. Just get enough rings, get hit, and then you got free movement. So apparently these shuttles from Sunset Star can also be seen underwater? I don't know how that works, but I guess they're multi-purpose. Huh. These things are still cool though. Points up. These slides are also very nice, though in my opinion, I don't think they fit much. I don't know, they just don't match the foreground. It's more something that belongs in Hydrocity, which these things are from, but, that's just me. The stage is a bit boring and aesthetic, but it's not awful. However, I'm just not feeling it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Fortress Flo.
Hello, hi, future Quaker DX recording not from his studio, here to say that I might have given Fortress Flo a bit of a bad rep, so, yeah. Just making this edit to say that it's not in the not feeling it tier, it's more in the harmless stage tier. Alright, future Quaker DX out.
Perilous Paradise. Now this stage has a lot going for it, and the story behind it is spectacular. This is the first time Tails sees the true destruction Eggman can really cause. However, this doesn't really show much in the first act, it's more shown in the acts that follow, but we'll get to that soon. Now, the overall aesthetic of this stage I absolutely love. It's like a corrupted Star Shore zone, with all the trees and the greenery, less stars in the background though. And also, the floor is like, it's not dirt, it's like mechanical ground. I thought that was a nice touch. There are also these screens that flash between Eggman and Sonic, though that's more of a detail that I'll express later on once we progress through the acts. But let's talk about the badniks. This place has a rogues gallery of interesting badniks. There are these arrowhead things that make this funny noise that goes thwack whenever they fly off these little ledges. There are these water cannons that hurt you on land but push you underwater. I thought that was a little neat detail. And there's also these caterpillar heads. Yeah, they're there. This place definitely does have a lot of unique badniks, and I like them, especially the water cannons. They're so cool looking. I mean, they fill up with water and all that stuff. I always thought that was cool. But now let's progress to Act 2. Act 2 is where things get real, with things looking the same until you see this missile fly into the air. Then you wonder, what the heck was that? And as you progress through the stage, boom! The whole forest gets set on fire, and my goodness, you can even see the heat waves when it happens. This is the part of the story where Tails finally realizes the destruction of Eggman. This forest is slowly being converted into more of his base, and Tails seeing firsthand how Eggman does it. This is all stuff that I really never saw when I was young. I really started to notice all this like when I was like, I don't know, the age I am now. And then when you look at the TVs, they're slowly transitioning from Sonic to Eggman, symbolizing his takeover as he slowly chokes out the land. I love it, man, I love it! Then we transition to Act 3. And when Act 3 rolls around, the whole place has turned into a Robotnik hellscape. At this point, Tails knows who the bad guy is. Eggman is not a good guy, and he's seen all the proof he needs. This is an excellent way of introducing Tails to Eggman without them actually meeting, because they still haven't met yet. However, Tails just knows his destruction and what Eggman's all about, with the TVs finally flashing Eggman and only Eggman. It's great! The grass is all dead, the trees are all decayed. It's amazing, man! Overall, this is a memorable stage, and it deserves to be in one of my faves.